Okay, just excuse my gavel tonight. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-4, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Mara?
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Callie?
Here.
Mr. DePrima?
Here.
Mr. Dunn?
Here.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Here.
Mr. Giordano? Mr. Solikowski? Mr. Weber? Ms. DeCaro?
Here.
Quorum exists.
Okay, and if we can all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, and just a reminder to everyone, there is a mask mandate in place, so in all school buildings, so you need to, everyone in the building really is required to wear a mask. Okay, so, moment of silence next week. This is going to be a rough one. Code of Ethics. Does anybody want to read?
I'll do it.
Ms. Callie?
Yeah.
And we actually have an appointment, district goals. We have a meeting on September 9th to review and update our board and district goals, and it will also review our board self-evaluations. And also just a reminder for those board members that haven't completed their evaluations yet, try to get them done by August 30th so that our field rep can compile all the information and be able to discuss it with us on September 9th. So I think there's about 4 board members that still have to do the self-eval. All right, so we'll have the approval of minutes and the report of the student representative to the board. We do have a new one right now. Anthony Toronto will be our new student council president. So great kid. We'll be happy to have him here. And then we'll have recognition. And Mr. Cittadino, do you have anything to say tonight, or?
Were a few items that would fall under superintendent's report and progress towards goals for tonight, so I'd ask the board members on the stage to step into a seat in the audience, and we'll present from there so the screen can come down and go from there.
Okay.
Okay, our first presentation is falls more under progress towards goals. We'll do it in a little bit of reverse order, and I'm going to ask our athletic director, Mr. Domino, to provide a presentation to the board and the public.
Just gotta wait till. So we'll cut off these. Let me just take it off this and I'll just do it from. Just go like that. I'll just keep it like this. Thanks. All right, good evening. Hope everyone had a great summer. Coach Anthony Lanzafama, our head coach who's here in attendance today, and myself would like to propose our football stadium to be named after former coach and teacher Bob DeMarco. Coach DeMarco was in Madison Central. His record at Madison Central was 107 wins, 51 losses, 5 ties in 17 years. He was appointed head coach at Oak Ridge High School in 1994. Coach DeMarco coached 33 years at Madison Central and Oak Ridge High School. His final record was 193 wins, 116 losses, and 6 ties, with 25 non-losing seasons. In 1988, Madison Central went 11-0 and won the Central Jersey Group 4 title. Counting 1 year where he was at Cardinal Spellman, DeMarco won 199 games in total. And again, Bob DeMarco was the first coach in Oak Ridge school football history. In 1980, they had a #1 ranking for Madison Central High School. That's the team on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, on Sunday, December 7th in 1980, the game would be one of the first high school championships played at Giant Stadium. In 1988, Madison Central again was ranked #1 for the Star Ledger. In addition to that, the impact was felt far beyond that, where they finished number 11 in the nation in the USA Today Super 25 poll. This is a picture of that team. With the merger of Cedar Ridge and Madison Central High Schools in 1994, Coach DeMarco became the first head coach in Oak Ridge High School history. In 2001, the team went on to go all the way to the state finals, where they played at Rutgers University. Since 2001, he joined with former players Sean Smith and Mark Silverman. They formed the Be the Best Foundation. With this foundation, each year they give out 2 scholarships to Oak Ridge football players. Be the Best was Coach DeMarco's longtime team slogan while he was coaching. And then just adding it all together, you're talking about a coach that's been around for 33 years, first coach in Oak Ridge High School history, 199 career wins. He's a member of the New Jersey Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. He has 13 playoff appearances, 5-time sectional finalist, 2-time state champion, 7 GMC division crowns. Coached many collegiate players that went on to play at the next level. And again, like I just said at the last slide, he made this foundation where he gives back to our football players. If this does go through, we're looking to have a ceremony on Thursday, September 9th, the day prior to our home opener, which would be on September 10th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Domino. Obviously, our board will discuss this matter and the proposal from our football coach and Mr. Domino when we join back on the stage. I will now ask our Supervisor of Guidance, Ms. Katie Tevold, to provide us with a guidance update going forward.
So could you excuse that? Can I fix that on my end? Perfect, okay. That makes sense, all right. Thank you, Mr. Cittadino, and thank you to our board members and our central administrative team for having me here tonight. I'm excited to share have this opportunity to share with you some initiatives from specifically the high school guidance department. Starting in September, the counselors are going to be working in grade level pods. We are looking forward to this opportunity to team up. There are 11 school counselors throughout grades 9 through 12, and we will remain with the 2 counselors at the GNC, and the remaining 9 counselors will work on 3 pods by grade level of 3 counselors each to provide additional support, resources, and really take a collaborative team effort in reaching out to not only our students, but providing support with our teachers as well as communication with our parents and community. This collaborative and focused approach came from looking at the high school model, where many systems throughout Old Bridge High School rotate on a grade level cycle, except for the guidance department. So we want to join in on what has already been successful before us, such as the assistant principals, the class advisors, even department teachers, where they typically get to collaborate and work within grade level teams. A real goal of ours to meet the needs of our students, student-centered, but also more unified approach to what our students are all receiving from our counselors as a department, and just creating an even stronger support system for our students. And that support system is only going to become larger because we're going to, lock arms with building administration, with coaches, with teachers, advisors all throughout the building, and we feel that we'll have an opportunity to do that when working in these grade level pods in these small teams, because we'll have a more focused approach of the age that they are working with, more specific, and be able to provide a more detailed form of counseling as well as overview for our department. So some areas of impact that you're going to see now, 50% of the students of Old Bridge High School were receiving a new counselor this year regardless of this change or not. The 9th graders coming in, of course, from the middle schools each have a new counselor assigned to them. And then the 9th graders rising into the main campus each receive a new counselor. There's a lot of transition that goes on and collaboration in that change of year. But the 50% of students that were not going to be receiving a new counselor, just a little less than half are actually still keeping that counselor as well. So we want to make sure the impact is as little as possible. There's already been more collaboration this summer amongst counselors in sharing information on students, resources, kind of picking up where they left off, just articulating last year into next year to prepare for that and make sure there's as little negative impact as possible, but instead a positive impact. Our top 10% of high school students, juniors and seniors, will remain with the college counselor that they were working with last year. And then as a department, we have a focus on career exploration as well as college readiness, not just for our top 10% of students. Well over 80, actually almost 90% of our high school students go on to a 2 or 4 year college, and those are statistics over the last 20 years. It was always over 75% into the 80s, and then most recently in the last 5-10 years, we're close to 90% of students. So as a department and as a group of counselors here at the high school, we are proud to all be providing our students with that vision for their future, whether it's vocational, military, the job force. We want to prepare them for that next level, and we want to make sure that all of our students have the access and opportunities to 2 and 4 year colleges and planning for their future. So positive impact for students, I touched on this a little bit, but again, there's just great things happening here at the high school under the leadership, of course, of Mr. Citadino, Dr. Holker, and Dr. Tui. Dr. Sasso has created this 4-year experience, 2 buildings, but it's a big, beautiful campus with a lot of opportunities for our students, and we want to make sure that they have that 4-year experience. And we feel as a department that we can provide that stronger in taking a team of 11 counselors and really teaming up, partnering, having more collaborative opportunities, and ultimately having that not only double, actually triple the amount of resources that our students and their families will be receiving. So when a counselor previously was working with 3 grade levels and providing 3 different sets of resources for their students, now they're working with 1 grade level and they're partnered with 2 other colleagues. So we are tripling the amount of resources and counselor power behind what we're giving our students, and specifically in topics of career and college, as I had mentioned, but also for our at-risk, at-need students. We want to make sure that we're providing mental health support. We want to make sure we're providing resources, referrals for the community when families need it. There's so many opportunities, and we want to make sure that we're sharing them as effectively as possible with our students and their families. I have listed at the bottom here just a couple additional areas throughout the high school that we're hoping this will improve, or we're confident that this will improve. Our AP classes, our advanced electives, our CTEs, our vocational programs, dual enrollment programs, and last month I had the opportunity to share our early college program that will be starting next fall. And this is something we want to make sure we are providing for our top students. We want to make sure we are supporting our struggling students and each and every student in between. And this model is going to make sure that we're reaching all of our students and that there's access and equity in these initiatives. And I just wanted to end with my information in case anyone has any questions moving forward. I'm available by email, give me a call. I'm here at the high school, so I would love to talk more as we move forward. It really is not only a collaborative effort, I use that word a lot this evening, I'm sorry, but amongst our department, but the feedback that I get from my colleagues and administrators, as well as from our community and our parents, I welcome it. I'm always a work in progress, so the more feedback I get, the stronger we can make these programs for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity because I know we usually handle in memoriam during the actual board meeting, the action board meeting, but there's tremendous losses to our Old Bridge Schools community this past week that I feel as though we at least have to recognize that we can't move forward without at least thanking Jack Phillips, who passed away this week as a principal in the district and a lifelong educator in the district, who touched many lives, without at least thanking him for that and his family. Jack was a tremendous man if you ever met him. He retired as the principal of Carpenter Elementary School, where he was not only a mentor to new principals like myself when I came into the district, but to many. He really loved the children there and his staff, his peers, and his family. So our heart goes out to the Phillips family, and we thank them. Also, what has become a terrible trend in Old Bridge is we have these motor vehicle accidents over the course of the summertime in recent years where we lose alumnus, and it's really taking a step and just recognizing how precious life is and how it can be avoidable. Old class of 2013, we lost Nicholas Nissen and Joseph Riggio from the class of 2009. Again, this was not the fault of these students, these former students. They were partaking in an event for a friend of theirs, and a driver from Pennsylvania was charged with manslaughter for driving 87 in a 45 mile per hour area. And not only did he take the lives of two of our former students, but a young man from Bayonne as well. So we really have to share the information with our young drivers. This is all avoidable by recognizing that motor vehicles, while they give great liberty and freedom, they also come with great responsibility. Thank you. In the beginning of August, we put out our survey information to our Old Bridge community of educators, parents, and any community member who wanted to partake in the survey, as we're required to do so in the new return to school model that is mandated by the state of New Jersey. I'm going to just take some time. This is the first time the public's seeing this data, and the board is seeing this data. It'll be put on their district website tomorrow. Of the participants, we had 1,633 parents or guardians, 353 staff members, 8 community members, and 1 who listed themselves as an other. The categories in which they provide feedback was in the area of universal correct mask wearing, physical distancing, hand washing, respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining health facilities, including improving ventilation, contact tracing in combination with isolation, quarantine, and collection of state and local information, diagnostic and screening of testing, efforts to provide vaccinations to educators, other staff, students, if eligible, and appropriate accommodations for children with disabilities with respect to health and safety. As you can see, in a majority of the areas that were either gray or blue, the gray indicated that the public or staff agreed, or blue strongly agreed, with the measures that were in the original roadback plan. In the question, this one was probably one that gets debated the most in the public, so we isolated it so we would know where it was parent or guardian feedback. We see that in the area of parent or guardians, 2/3 of the parent or guardians that participated in the survey either agreed or disagreed with universal and correct mask wearing, while the staff members, it was 70% of the staff members collectively strongly agreed or agreed with universal correct mask wearing in school. Some of the information that was provided to them: the district continues to follow the mandate of the Governor of New Jersey concerning the use of masks on school grounds as outlined in Executive Order 251. The district shall adhere to the New Jersey Department of Health guidance and other executive orders for social distancing at schools, contact tracing, quarantine procedures. Schools will allow for social distancing within the classroom to the maximum extent practicable. And that is a word that will have to be used a lot this year: practicable. This district will continue to review the use of all individual PPE, plexiglass, desk shields, and apply for the PPE supplies when and if social distancing cannot be implemented as outlined by the Department of Health or an executive order. Some of the comments that were from either the staff or the parents. From the staff: Old Bridge has done a great job so far. Improved ventilation systems. Concerns regarding ability to physically distance in classrooms. Masks should continue versus no masks. Mandate vaccines. Remote options should be available. From the parents: requesting of no mask mandate. Continue all precautions to keep our students safe. All staff should be vaccinated. Provide a remote option versus no remote option for students. Education on hygiene for students. 5 full days for our students. Plan looks great as is. In the question of ensuing continuity of services, obviously, 1,028 agreed strongly with the continuity of services, or 670 agreed. So the overwhelming majority agreed that we should continue with services for our students, especially in the areas of social, emotional, mental health. Some of the comments in that area from the staff: plans to address lunch for students. There should be a bridge time for students and teachers for the start of the school to address material from last year. Mental health supports for staff and students. Wellness Wednesdays was helpful. From our parents, support mental health for our students. Full school days. Social opportunities are needed for students. Continue with the ESSER programs. Provide a remote option and expand on the plan to address learning loss. The plan as it pertained to public gathering of comments, how it was input, and how it was incorporated into the plan. Again, the majority either strongly agreed or agreed with the plan and as it received information from the public. Description of how the district ensured the plan is understandable and uniform in format is to the extent that it's practicable when written in a language that parents can understand. If not practicable, to provide written translations for parents who are limited English proficient, will be orally translated to any such parent, or upon request, the parent who is an individual with a disability as defined by the ADA will be provided with an alternative format to have access to the plan as a parent. And overall, the majority felt that that was important as well. Some comments from the public comment process. Staff felt that it provided update information, they should provide updated information as quickly as possible. Continue to use science-based decisions. Parents felt, consider new committee members for this year, a town hall format for input. The plan and action do not appear aligned with how the information is being translated, and the plan was organized and helpful. Okay, so we can return as a board to our seats, and then we can conduct our business going forward.
Does any board members have any questions for either Mr. Domino, Ms. Tevold, or Mr. Cedeno?
I do, please. Mr. Domino, quick question. On the presentation, the picture showed Bob DeMarco Stadium, but it still said Lombardi Field. Is that the way it'll stay? The complex will be named after Coach, but the field will still be Lombardi?
If I can answer that since I have the microphone on, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, as we had discussions on that. So it would be Bob DeMarco Stadium at Lombardi Field, correct?
Okay. And also, I think you said the dedication would be the 9th. Do you know what time? Okay, because we have a meeting that night, and I'd really like to be at the dedication if this goes through. All right, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
Yeah, so I just want to comment on Bob DeMarco. I did not have the privilege of playing high school football here in Old Bridge, but I did play at New Dorp High School on Staten Island, and we have a very good program just like Bob DeMarco had here in Old Bridge. We named our field after Sal Soma, who was a legendary coach, and his coaching and his abilities through the years meant a lot to the players that played under him for many, many years, and I'm sure the same could be said with Bob DeMarco. He is a legendary coach. You know, the accolades are unbelievable, and I would be proud to vote in favor of renaming Lombardi Field Bob DeMarco Field. I think it's a great recognition, and it would also help all the players that have come his way, honor his dedication to them, because you know what? Coaches in high school ranks do make a difference in one's life. I can tell you certainly that's what happened with me back in my old New Dorp days, where, you know, high school football and Coach Ravina there kept me involved with the program and helped me tremendously, and I know athletics does that. So I'm in favor of this. I think it's a great recognition for Bob DeMarco, and I believe there's a 50th anniversary coming up next year as well, I believe, of a championship team from the 70s. So that's something we should discuss as well. But I'll be voting in favor of this.
Great.
I would suggest that we keep the comments on the Bob DeMarco portion of it. Then we could do a straw poll so that we put a recognition on the board for, a resolution on the board for next week. And then we can go on to the other topics instead of going, so we don't go back and forth between topics.
Absolutely. Okay. Would anyone else like to comment or speak to Bob DeMarco's field dedication? Go ahead, Ms. Silver.
Yeah, I think it's just another recognition. You know, I think over the last couple of years, we've extended some of these recognitions to some extremely valuable and people who've had such a lasting impact, not only on the district, but the people of it. So I think it is, you know, a well-deserved honor. And it's great that we have the opportunity to recognize those people who've touched so many lives.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I can say that my oldest son, Joe, had the privilege of working with Coach DeMarco before he had the privilege of working with Coach Lanzafama. So, you know, we definitely had that experience with Bob DeMarco. He was a great coach, fantastic. And speaking of the Be the Best award, my son happened to be the recipient of it in 2011. So it really does mean a lot to us, and it's a really great thing. And he did the camp, you know, the Be the Best camp, and yeah, it was really great. So I will definitely be voting for it. I think it's a great thing, and it's a great honor. So I guess if nobody else has any comments, would we like to do a straw poll on whether we want to put this on the agenda, right? Yeah.
All right, so this is a straw poll to put this particular item on the agenda next week. I'll start with Mr. Giordano.
Yeah.
Mr. Silikowski.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Ms. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Callie.
Yes.
Mr. DePrima.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
And Mr. Carroll.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, the vote is unanimous to add a resolution next week renaming the football field.
Okay. Is there going to be, is there any correspondence today, Mr. Mayor?
Can we just, before we get to that part, any discussion on Ms. T-Bald's piece?
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, I forgot about the rest of you, I got so excited.
Any questions related to Ms. T-Bald's presentation?
I just have a clarification. I want to make sure I understand it correctly, that the ninth graders, the GNC, will still have their two dedicated. And then when the student goes into main campus, they will have the same the pod of 3 for their next 3 years. So those 3 people will follow them their 3 years at main campus. Is that correct? Did I get?
They'll still be assigned an individual counselor, but that counselor will be working on a team that will be collaboratively sending out resources,
Right.
information, and programs and things like that for the grade level.
Right, and they'll have them for all 3 years. Right, so so we'll have that continuity from their sophomore, junior, and senior year, same counselor, and the same pod team working with them. All right, great, thank you so much. I think it's great.
For the people at home that didn't get the answer, that the students, once they enter into the main building for their sophomore through senior year, would have the same counselor, but also be working within the same pod of resources to provide that information and supports as well.
That was actually my question too, so you answered it, thank you. Does anyone else have anything for Ms. Tebow? No? Okay, and do we want to go on to the survey? Does anyone have any board members have any questions on the survey that Mr. Cittadino presented?
Madam President?
Yes.
You know, the survey is a very important tool to give us guidance on what the community thinks and states. And obviously, the community should have a lot to say on what we do as a school district. I think that the way government was developed is that local school districts have the authority to govern themselves and to do things what they believe is in the best interest of their students. As we know, over the last 2 years, it's been very difficult, and Old Bridge Public Schools have been impacted enormously by state government over the last 3 years. As we know, the school system here in Old Bridge has taken a $15 million hit from the state of New Jersey, from Governor Murphy, and what he believes is in the best interest of all the school districts. And now he is enacting more executive orders that are impacting the way we deliver our education to our students. With that said, I think it's time for school districts to make it known that we are going to push back as much as we can. Obviously, his executive orders come with punitive actions against school districts, superintendents, school boards, et cetera, and those punitive actions include fines and also imprisonment, which I think is a little bit of a dictatorship as far as I'm concerned. But at this point, there's nothing we can do as a Board of Education other than express our displeasure and our disagreement with executive orders. Obviously, there's a lot of concern out there in the community regarding mandates, and obviously, recently, the governor has issued Executive Order 251, which basically reverses his rescinding of the order previously, which now we have to be wearing masks again. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate about does masks work or not, but it should be left as a local decision and not a dictator's decision. So with that said, I would like to propose a resolution tonight that the Board of Education here in Old Bridge can consider and possibly convey to the governor that executive orders are not in our best interest. Obviously, over the last 3 years, this district has been impacted in a very negative way based upon what comes out of Trenton. And I think that he's continuing that process with another executive order. So with that said, I want to present this evening to my colleagues on the board a resolution. Obviously, the board has the power to say yes or no, but I'm going to take this opportunity to read what I believe should be sent to Trenton just to explain to Governor Murphy our discontent with his executive actions. The Old Bridge Board of Education is adamantly against the use of executive orders by Governor Murphy, specifically Order 251, masking to usurp and circumvent local school board authority regarding matters that adversely affect the quality and delivery of education. The Old Bridge Board of Education implores the governor to rescind Executive 251 and allow individual school districts, upon recommendation of the superintendent an action by the School Board of Education to exercise their authority and oversight based upon circumstances and facts as they are presented. Obviously, it's very clear that we believe executive orders usurp our authority. And I would ask my colleagues here on the Old Bridge Board of Ed to consider this resolution so we can go on record that we disagree with the powers of the governor and what he's trying to push on our community. Thank you.
So do we need a motion, or?
Mr. Dunn, do you want to make a motion to adopt that resolution on next Tuesday's agenda?
Yes, I make a motion to adopt this resolution and be placed on our next business meeting next Tuesday.
Weber will second.
Okay, Mr. Weber. And can we have some discussion? Do we have any discussion from the board?
I have a question, I have discussion, but I'll save that for a couple of other people, but I have a question. The way Mr. Dunn vocalized his vote, it's to pass a resolution. This is just a vote to put a resolution up for vote on next week's meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion?
Hi,
Can I- oh, sorry.
Okay. You know, I think this is a very divisive topic. I agree with Mr. Dunn. We have had a lot put on our plate from the government. We are the Old Bridge Public School Systems. Everything we do is mandated from them. My concern is taking this stance now creates greater division in our community at a time when our focus, at least to me, is on how do we get our children most successful when they get to school. I mean, if we want to talk separately about the masks, that's a different story. I think the public is clear in that they agree we should be, the majority, at least from this survey, that masks are a good thing to have in our school. I think we all are united in that we want our kids back 5 days a week, full days. And I think that should be our focus. I don't think at this point, taking really what is, and we'll be honest, a political hot button, and get involved in it at this point in time when that really should not be our focus. It should be on, as some of the things Ms. Tebold said, how do we get our kids ready emotionally and socially? How do we make sure that first month back to the basics, we really focus on our academic gaps? How do we make sure that we can keep all of our clubs going so that the kids get that social connection they need? I think that should be our focus. And I think this is something that continues to create a divide when we shouldn't have it. So, I mean, I'd be fine with bringing it up to continue a discussion, but I just don't support it because I don't think it's the right thing for us to do at this time.
Ms. DeCaro?
Yes.
I want to echo some of the things that Ms. Ellis Foster said, but this resolution, as I understand it, really has no, to use actually Mr. Dunn's words, has no teeth, right?
Correct.
Okay. And again, we all know that we have been the subject of severe cuts. Now, I sat in those meetings with Governor Sweeney and Mr. Cittadino, Ms. Ellis, huh? So, I'm sorry, Senator Sweeney. Yeah, Governor didn't come. As well as other administrators, and Ms. Ellis Foster was there as well. I don't know why, but for some reason, Old Bridge seems to have a target on its back. And I believe that pushing this forward and making a statement to the governor at this point is just going to make that target bigger. I mean, we already, right from the start of the discussions about why our budget was so severely cut, Senator Sweeney was under the impression, and I hope he's no longer under the impression, that our administration sent a very strong and quite vile letter and it has, turns out that it was actually sent by a politician in town, and unfortunately, that letter was mistakenly credited to our administration, and they weren't happy about that. The survey showed, and everybody had an opportunity to answer that survey, that 60% of the parents, the citizens, are in favor of continuing mask mandates. I have spoken to countless parents who I have asked to come out and speak or even write a letter, but quite honestly, they're afraid. They thank us for the precautions that we've taken. They agree with the mask mandate. They want their kids to come back to school for a sense of educational and social normalcy, and they don't perceive masking as a huge issue. They would rather have that and keep the kids safe and keep them in school. And we're elected officials, and we're supposed to be representing the people. You can't make everybody happy, but the majority is obviously for the mask mandate, as was shown by the survey. And I feel, that we have an obligation to continue to keep these kids safe. We've had examples of some of our special needs students who at the end of the school year, became ill. I'm really not going to get into that. So I can't support this.
Madam President, may I?
Yes, Mr. Ibrahim.
Mr. Dunn, just correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you're saying is, you're not saying no mask, you're saying give us and / the community parents the authority to say yes or no. If Mr. Smith wants to send his son to school with a mask, great. If Mrs. Jones doesn't, great.
Exactly, Sal. What the issue is that I am tired of us being dictated to by a dictator in Trenton telling us what we need to do. And quite frankly, the Old Bridge Township should be able to determine its own, rules and destiny when it comes down to governing our specific school system. We have the authority. Obviously, he feels differently. And I'm not saying I'm for or against mask mandates. I believe there shouldn't be a mask mandate. I believe it should be optional. Parents should have the options to determine what's in the best interest of their children. But the fact is that I'm concerned about the draconian actions by our governor, who was putting unnecessary executive orders in place, and it's not going to stop with just Executive 251. As we know, the Delta variant is mutating, or it's causing more problems, and I can say that I'm pretty confident the governor is going to instill additional executive orders in the future on us and others. So basically what the goal is of this resolution is say, hey, Governor, let us decide. Give us the abilities. Obviously, we have the best intentions of our children at heart. That's what we've been elected to do. And we're going to follow the facts. We're going to follow the circumstances and determine what's in our best interest. But you to have a broad brush telling everyone this is the way it has to be, I think is un-American and not a correct approach in our democracy. So we're here for a purpose, and that purpose is to govern and to lead. With the input of our executive team here, we have great administrators. Obviously, we're not going to make a decision that's going to adversely impact our children, but the fact is that these executive orders are becoming too draconian, and they're becoming a problem.
Just wanted to clarify what you meant. Thank you.
I have a question then for Mr. Dunn. So why mention the mask mandate at all and just say we're tired of, mandates in general?
Well, obviously, the masks are a huge issue of contention, and obviously what made me upset was Executive Order 251, and that was the impetus of the resolution. Obviously, the mask mandate is an executive order, and I believe that, people should have the right to choose if they wear masks or not. With that said, I understand, it is a sensitive issue. I understand that it could be divisive, but the facts are very clear. We should determine what's in the best interest of our district and not getting dictated to by someone from Trenton.
Did you
Mrs.
have another
DeCaro?
question, Mrs. Burns, or did that answer your question?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Burns.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did you have another follow-up to Mr. Dunn, or were you done?
I'm digesting it, but I don't have a reply right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes. Anyone that hasn't,
Mr.
anyone-
Giordano, can you put your mask up, please, while you're talking?
maybe.
Maybe.
Well, I have to speak. Okay, so anyone that hasn't read the Fauci emails, he specifically says here that the masks do not protect unarmed people from acquiring infection, but you probably didn't hear that from all the conditioning and the propaganda that's been going around. And also, people don't need masks for any other activity. This is only mandated for the school children. And obviously, as I've been saying for so long, this is all about control. And this governor, and only the governor, he wants to control you, and I don't believe we should be controlled. People have the right to do what they want with their bodies, and we know that communication is mostly nonverbal, and we've done enough damage to our kids, and they should be given the choice on what they want to do. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. I did a little research this afternoon, and in the European Union, the following countries do use masks in public restaurants or public places, but they do not use them in schools. And they be four fairly large countries, which includes the UK, France, Spain, Italy, and Greece, which are collectively in excess of about 250 million people, which puts them at about 80% of the size of this country. And obviously, I would suggest that board members or whatever do their research and verify those things that I've said. Also, I think it needs to be understood that we've had 13 months of school with masking, and we've had an 18-month period of this going on. Up to this point, the statistics for children, particularly those under 12 who would not be vaccinated even if it were available, at this point are, it's a crapshoot because the science is not following up and telling us what has been the reaction. There was a report that I watched on TV. I wasn't able to get a copy of it, but it basically stated that for the most part, these were in many cases causing respiratory things. The other thing I think we need to keep in mind is over this past pandemic up to this point, these kids have spent probably no more than 300 hours out of the year since they were in school a very little bit of the time. If you go back 5 days a week and you do it for 180 days and you have a 6-hour day with transportation to and from, that's close to 1,100 hours, which is obviously 3 or 4 times as much of what they've been exposed to by wearing masks with any of the issues. And so I just find it peculiar that our scientific industry has not done any meaningful research on the effect of masks. And based on that, without having any information to refute not wearing the mask, it's hard to believe that that should have even happened.
Anyone else? So I guess I'm the last one, so I will, I concur with Ms. Ellis Foster and Mrs. Calley. I don't want to be redundant and repeat everything that they said, but first of all, again, this is a toothless resolution. It doesn't mean anything. We still, regardless of whether we have this resolution or not, we still have to comply with the mandate. I mean, we don't have a choice. So I think this is a waste of energy. I think we need to focus our energies on getting our children back to school. These kids want to be in school 5 days a week, and if they have to wear a mask to do it, I know they are fine with it. I've talked to many, many people with boots on the ground, and I have not heard one teacher, parent, para, anything say anything other than the kids are fine in the classroom with the masks on. And again, it doesn't mean any, it doesn't have any, so I'm going to vote no on this resolution, and I'm going to vote no. So,
Madam President?
yes.
So you're saying it's a waste of energy, and
Yes.
I totally disagree with that comment, Madam President. For the simple fact is obviously we need to stand up for ourselves. And if we're going to capitulate and give in to Trenton and give in to Governor Murphy, then what's the sense?
So,
We're not
Mr.
going
Dunn?
to give up. This is something which we're going to continue fighting for. The executive orders that he is infringing on us are usurping our authority. And we need to make a stand, and I'm saying that I want him to understand that his executive orders have consequences. And the fact is that we need to have our authority preserved, and that's what this resolution is about. And I believe, I heard that, what we set, someone from the city town council or someone in government sent a letter badgering the governor about, the draconian cuts of state aid. If that's the way they want to, play politics and then penalize us on the fact that we're standing up for what we believe is right, that's disingenuous. So I believe this is the right course of action, saying to Trenton, hey, you know what? Rethink your positions with executive orders. And it's not a waste of time, Madam President.
So, Mr. Dunn, so what I wanted to say is that it's not going to matter. It's an executive order, and the problem is here that there is such divisiveness just right here on this board, right up here, that there's no way. There's going to be more fighting, more arguing. He basically, did the mandate so that we can move on, and that's why this mandate is being done. The American Academy of Pediatric recommends masks. So I'm going with the science on this, and that's it,
Comment
So-
portion in a couple of minutes. Sorry.
I have a comment. I would just refer back to 1763 when the Stamp Act was a precursor to the American Revolution. It took 13 years, but they got it done. And I'm not advocating violence or anything, but I think the fact that somebody makes a selection that they want to fight for something rather than not do anything.
Okay, so do we take a roll call?
Take a roll call.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Parton, is it appropriate for me to ask Mr. Dunn to send me the context of his resolution? Because I did not.
You'll have it in just a moment.
Okay. Okay, so for Mr. Dunn's proposed resolution, Mr. Silikowski?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. This is to place Mr. Dunn's proposed resolution on your agenda for a vote next week.
Yes.
Mr. Parton, point of order. If 3 votes is part of our bylaws, agree to put something on the agenda, it needs to go on the agenda without getting it approved here. Is that correct?
At this point, what's before you is a straw poll on Mr. Dunn's proposed resolution. So
Can
we
I-
can
I'm sorry.
revisit that issue if it becomes an issue, Mr. Webb.
I'm sorry, can I have a clarification? I couldn't hear what Mr. Weber was saying. Are we voting to put it on the agenda or voting yes or no for the resolution?
You're just voting to put it on the agenda at
Okay,
this point.
thank you.
So then, based on what our bylaws are, 3,
Yeah, you might.
I'll take my mask off. Based on what our bylaws are, if there are 3 agendas for any board member to put a proposal on, 3 votes for any board member independently of this meeting to put it on the agenda, is that correct?
That is correct.
So in that case, if 3 votes are cast for it now, it will be on the agenda.
It'll be on the agenda for consideration, but right now it's being proposed as a resolution for board placement. So let's follow through with the procedure that way at this point, because that's what's in front of you right now.
Okay.
Mr. Silikowski?
Definitely, and I will speak next week considerably about this, okay? I have grandkids in the system, and my granddaughter, she was told that you have to be vaccinated. And she says, why do I have to wear a mask if I'm vaccinated? She refuses to wear a mask, and we'll see what happens. I guess they're going to have to lock her up, and she's only 11 years old. I will speak next week on this.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
No.
Ms. Callie?
Actually, I'm going to vote yes, this goes on the agenda because I think we need more discussion about this. I'm
Mr.
against the resolution, but I'll vote yes to put it on the agenda.
Mr. DePrima?
Apparently, many school boards are doing this. Maybe ours will be the one to put it over the top in Trenton, so I vote yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Yes, to move it on the agenda.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
And Mr. Carroll?
No.
Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses, so we'll be on the agenda next week.
So that was in superintendent's report still. We haven't gotten to, there's no correspondence. Will there be any special committee reports next week?
Yes, we're going to have a progress towards reopening of schools. All the construction work, all the preparation we've done to get ready for schools for the 2021-22 school year.
Okay. And I don't remember, did we have any other, well, I don't know if you'll have a policy commit, I don't know if you'll have a policy
Do you want one? I
report.
mean, we put the
No, we don't
okay.
need one. We don't need one. All right, so now, a hearing of the residents on agenda items only. What's that?
These are only items to be voted on tonight.
Yeah, only on the items that we're voting on tonight. The items that we are voting on tonight are curriculum, professional development, and finance, and certificated personnel. So, seeing no one commenting. We discussed policy already. So curriculum, professional development, anybody have any questions? Oh, that's right. So we need a motion for curriculum, professional development, number 1.
Callie will move.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Burns will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Can I have a roll call, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
No.
Mr. Silikowski?
No.
Mr. Weber?
No.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. DePrima?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Votes are 6 to 3, the resolution passes.
All right, and then there's 2 through 10. Anybody have any questions or discussion about anything? All right, athletics. Anything? And finance, we have a vote. I need a motion for finance 1 and 2.
Madam President, Dunn will move finance items 1 and 2.
Can I have a second, please?
Callie will second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to separate on July, which is, I guess, batch number 1, page 11 of 12, number 9035. I would like to separate that for voting purposes. And on the August one, 8/13/21, batch number 1, page 3 of 4, 9035. I'd like to separate that one also for voting purposes.
Mr. Solokowski, can you clarify what those items are?
Okay, that's 9035. Okay, let's go to page 3 of 4. This is the Lombardi Field project, which I voted no on originally. The spending of $1 million, where I specified that this money should have been put into the classroom, especially the elementary level, to get these kids caught up in the 3 Rs. And I was defeated in a vote. I got 3 votes, and I am voting no on this right now. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any other discussion on that?
I just have a clarification from Mr. Mara. The money you used for Lombardi was in capital. Is there a way that those funds could have been used for operational classroom expenses?
No, they were not.
Okay, thank you. So that we had no way of using that money in the classroom. All right, thank you.
So I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't get the second.
It couldn't be used in the classroom for,
Okay, no, I'm sorry. No, I was going back to Mr. Silikowski. But to answer your question more clearly, the funds for the Lombardi project were generated in the capital reserve account, which cannot be used to fund educational costs. But Mr. Silikowski, you objected to 2 items on the bill list. What was the second item? 9035. I have that one. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so how do we do this?
So you vote on the first 9035 individually, then the second one, and then the remaining bills?
Do I need a separate motion?
No, you don't. You already have those on the table.
Okay. All right, so we will vote on, roll call on the first 9035.
Mr. Giordano?
No.
Mr. Silikowski?
No.
Mr. Weber? Mr. Weber? No. Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. DePrima?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
So the 9035 from the July bill list passes. The 9035 from the August bill list, Mr. Giordano again?
No.
Mr. Silikowski?
No.
Mr. Weber?
No.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. DePrima?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
So 9035 from the August bill list passes. On Resolution 1 and 2, with those 2 items removed, Mr. Giordano?
No.
Mr. Silikowski?
No.
Mr. Weber? Yes. Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. DePrima?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
The bill lists in 1 and 2 pass.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on 3 to 17? Okay. Non-certificated personnel office. Non-certificated personnel operational. Non-certificated personnel other.
Yes, we have 2 retirements, I believe, on the agenda for next week, and I will go over both of them.
Okay.
We have to certify. To
Okay,
certify.
certificated personnel.
There's 3 motions.
I need a motion for items 1, 2, and 3.
Callie will move.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. DePrima, any discussion? Okay, can I have a roll call?
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski.
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolutions 1, 2, and 3 pass.
All right. How far does this go? Any discussion on the rest? Any questions? Non-certificated personnel transportation, anything? Supplies, equipment, and services?
Mr. Carroll, we
Yes.
missed transportation, I'm sorry.
Did I?
I would just like to read
Oh, sorry.
item number 1 under transportation, just for informational purposes for the public. Move the board acknowledge that on August 12th, 2021, at 2 p.m., Browntown Bus Company rescinded their renewal of all of their transportation contracts for 2021 and 2022, which consists of 24 routes and could impact 846 district students. Since the preparation of this resolution, the Browntown Bus Company has extended their agreement to provide transportation services through September 30th, but they are forcing us to go out to bid on contracts that they agreed up until August 12th that they would renew for another year. Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Mara, just as an educational portion for everyone here, after the school year already begins, or I guess, when are you going to put those bids out?
We've already started the process to prepare the bid specifications with the routes. We have to advertise them. I believe the bid opening will be in the first week of September, so we do have time to award them at one of the meetings in September to take effect on the day after that meeting.
My concern is it puts us behind the 8 ball, as a lot of districts have already gobbled up all of the routes and drivers that are available and units that are available. Are you optimistic that we'll be able to fill all these with other service providers?
Our Director of Transportation is optimistic, yes. The issue will be not that we will not be able to cover the routes, the additional cost associated with those routes will have a significant impact on the school district.
Mr. Mayor, did Browntown give us a reason, or did they just say that they're not going to honor their...
They allege that we hired one of their bus drivers. And as we've talked about for a number of years, since the requirement or the regulations that control how to become a bus driver were significantly increased and made very difficult about 3 or 4 years ago. It's been hard to find bus drivers, but one of their bus drivers applied for a bus driver position in our district, and that person was offered a position. And the day after that happened, we received this notice.
Thank you.
Okay. Now on to supplies, equipment, and services. Any questions? And miscellaneous. Okay. Anybody have any questions? And now I will open it up to the hearing of the residents on any school district issue. You can just come right on up to the microphone, and just when you come up, you can identify yourself, please. Thank you.
Good evening, parents and guardians, esteemed school board members, and Superintendent Cittadino. My name is Ella Morales. I'm not a doctor, but I will be quoting a few. I'm a New York City high school teacher, and I have a son who's starting Old Bridge High School this coming fall. I'm here to address Governor Murphy's Executive Order 251 mandating universal mask wearing in public schools. Like I said, I'm a New York City high school teacher and have been for the past 20 years now, and also a disciplinary dean. And I've worked in some pretty tough schools. And no matter what the situation ever was, how stressful it ever has been, I had never shed a tear before, not in front of students, faculty, or anywhere inside the school building. But when we went back to school last September, and I was walking down the halls and peering into the classrooms and seeing students with their faces covered, staring into computer screens like zombies, I went back to my office, I locked the door, and I sobbed. I cried because my heart broke to see my students like that. And I thought, what are we doing to our children? Lest we forget what Dr. Fauci himself said in the middle of the pandemic. I'm going to play it for you right now. I'm going to play you the audio.
When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face. So we're in the United States. People should not be walking around with masks.
In the United States, people should not be walking around with masks. Not my words, his words. According to the CDC itself, quote, in pooled analysis, we found no reduction in viral transmission with the use of face masks, end quote. Why? Because the COVID-19 virus particle is 0.1 micrometers, while the pore size of a surgical mask is at least 200 times that size. According to any doctor you bother to listen to, viruses are mostly spread by aerosol particles, and you cannot stop it with a mask. It's like trying to prevent dust from going through a chain link fence. You only have to be literate at an elementary school level to be able to read an advisory label on a box of surgical masks you can purchase practically anywhere now. Quote, these products are not intended for medical use or to prevent any disease or illness, end quote. Even on a box of N95 particulate respirators, quote, this respirator does not protect against the risk of contracting disease or infection. There are common sense, reasonable measures we can all take to maintain a healthy environment. Wash and sanitize our hands, cover our coughs and sneezes, stay home when ill. Forcing masks on our children for 7 hours a day is unreasonable. By all means, we have freedom of choice in this country. If it makes you feel better, like Dr. Fauci said, to wear a mask or even a face shield, do it. But please don't push your hypochondria on the rest of us and infringe on our freedom. According to Dr. Dan Stock, who is specially trained in immunology and inflammation regulation in Indiana, respiratory viral infections are never going away because they have animal reservoirs, unlike a disease like smallpox, which we were able to eradicate because it only learned to infect humans. So you can walk around happy with your masks for the rest of your lives, but it's an exercise in futility. By the way, that video where the doctor spoke so intelligently at the school board meeting was taken off of YouTube because it violated community standards. But luckily, I screen recorded it, so if anybody wants it, I'll forward it to you at the end of the meeting. Let me know. They may have been able to cancel the Dr. Dan Stock that I just mentioned, but let them try to cancel or discredit a 2008 Nobel Prize-winning virologist by the name of Luc Montagnier, who has come to the same scientific conclusions regarding the virus as the good doctor from Indiana. I think it's deplorable for Governor Murphy to invoke the 13 children hospitalized with COVID-19 to justify muzzling 1.3 million New Jersey students. Where was his and New Jersey Commissioner of Health Judith Persikilli's mask mandate during the 2018-2019 flu season when 51 children under the age of 18 were hospitalized? It is a verifiable fact that children under the age of 18 are more susceptible to the seasonal flu than to COVID-19. According to a study led by Dr. Marty McCary at Johns Hopkins Medical Center, where he is a surgeon, medical expert, and professor, they found zero COVID deaths among otherwise healthy children. Both Drs. McCary and Dr. Cody H. Meisner, who leads the Pediatric Infectious Diseases Division at Tufts University School of Medicine, found no conclusive scientific data proving masks reduce the spread of viruses. There is, however, evidence of the harm that forcibly masking children can cause. According to Dr. McCary, masks alter breathing, and we don't know the long-term consequences. Masks can exacerbate anxiety and breathing difficulties. They impair the development of human communication and language skills, particularly for very young children. Masks can also contribute to high levels of carbon dioxide in the human body, and they often become breeding grounds for dangerous bacteria that lead to illnesses like secondary bacterial pneumonia, which has been confirmed
Ms.
by
Morales?
Dr. Fauci and the NIH, let me finish please, 2 seconds, to have been the cause of most influenza deaths during the 1918-1919 flu pandemic. I implore this school board to push back on Murphy's executive order, which is driven by fallacy and fear, not science, and make masks optional in Old Bridge schools. If the township of West Milford and Passaic County can do it, so
Thank
can
you,
we.
Ms. Morales.
Let our children breathe.
Thank you. Anyone else? You can just come up. You don't have to raise your hand. You can come up if you want to like line up on the wall over there if you want to speak. Just again, please identify yourself.
My name's America DeJesus. Okay. I have 3 beautiful daughters. The one's in college, and one is in Grissom, and one is going to be going into middle school. So I'm all over the place. But it's the same fight. I'm so confused. Somebody said to Carol that there's such diversiveness on the board. Why can't you get it together? You don't agree that people should have a choice? What did you take your stand as a board member for? Why? Not to fight for kids? To fight amongst yourselves? I'm not here to fight for New Jersey or to fight for California or Texas. We're all in the same boat here. This is about our country. This is about freedom, okay? This is about our children. I'm not on the board here. You guys are. Why can't you get it together? What is the problem? You don't want people to have a choice? You don't want children to have a choice? Don't you represent children? Don't you? How dare you sit up there and fight amongst each other? Somebody said he wants to fight against, bring it up to Murphy, like maybe they should consider actually getting rid of, okay. Sorry, I'm winded. This is the first time I've ever stood here and spoke before. But I'm glad that I'm allowed to have my voice heard, because guess what? I live in the United States of America. And if you're, shame on you, gonna say, I don't think we should fight, why not? Why wouldn't you fight? This is your country. These are our rights as Americans. How dare you? Shame on you. I don't know how you put your head down on your pillow at night, to be honest with you. And you, for that matter, Ms. Burns, okay? And guess what? You sit on that side of the table, right? And I don't even know how you could look out here and call yourself a board member. We as parents sit on this side of the table, okay? And we have more control than you, believe it or not. If everybody stood together, not as a diverse board, you might have a little bit more of a fight. There's strength in numbers. I'm not going to sit out here and spew out the statistics and the numbers, because you would have to be an imbecile to not know them by this point in time, okay? You would all have to be, honestly, you should just step down if that's the case. Do your homework. Isn't that what we tell our children? Do your homework. You might know a little bit more. The masks do nothing for our children, but prohibit them from smiling at each other, from breathing fresh, free air, oxygen, okay? Maybe you've been wearing the masks too long and it's prohibiting your ability to think. But you should stand up for your children. That's what we're here for, okay? So instead of teaching our children, would you ever strive to teach them for last place? Would you? Would you ever strive to tell them to take a back seat to the freedom that we all fought so hard for? You'd rather give them nausea and headaches and a lack of self-worth, okay? And you call yourself parents and teachers. This isn't about one superintendent. This is about our country, okay? And if one school board can't get it together, because there are others that are getting it together, then shame on all of you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer O'Halloran, and I have my son who's in 2nd grade, and he can't even barely sit at the meeting the whole night because of the mask bothering him. And I had to keep him home from school because he had asthma attacks, and the school nurse knows about it, and he had to do remote for like the end of May to the beginning of June, and now that's not an option. So what happens when he wears a mask all day and he can't breathe? What am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. As a parent, and he sits there and he can't focus and he can't pay attention, and I don't understand why you can't agree on to write a letter like all the other towns are doing to fight for our kids. And there's a kid right here who's sitting here who's saying, "Mommy, I can't breathe." And I keep telling him, I don't even know what to tell him. I really don't. And you're saying you never met a kid who, talk to him.
Good evening. My name is Jay Slade. Jill, I want to congratulate you. Trying to act like a dictator once again and trying to practice communism by just trying to minimize Mr. Dunn's approach not to have a resolution, just to bring a resolution as a part of the agenda. It's disgusting. I think of other parents that are here, if you're afraid to speak and you're afraid to give your opinion, you should definitely come up and just speak your piece about not wanting, not just to have the children being unmasked, giving the children the option. And Jill conveniently obviously surrounds herself with people who don't think that masks help and they want to be fully masked. I think every parent should come up to show that there are enough parents out there that want to give their children the option. Jill thinks it's a waste of time. Ms. Foster thinks it shouldn't be part of the agenda. Bringing the kids back to school, the masks are a part of the agenda. Is just as important as getting the kids into school 5 days a week, full days. The mask mandate is part of the agenda. Give the parents the option, not forcing kids to wear masks. Thank you.
My name is Diane Michael. I know none of you are going to take this very lightly. I've been a parent in this district for a very long time. I have come to every agenda meeting and every Board of Ed meeting, probably maybe for the last 9 years. I don't know any of you. And I don't mean that to insult you. I'm glad you're here, but come more often and have more topics, because my child is very disabled and you don't know crap about that. So when you're speaking, speak for all children, not just your own. And come to the goddamn meetings, because I've been here for 9 years and I don't ever see any of you. I'm not up here to talk about this goddamn mask for another minute. I'm here to talk about education, policies, safety, none of you speak about. Why? Why is it just about the mask? I just really, really, really want to know. Lenny, why? Why is it just about the mask? Tell me. Come on, you all speak out, you all yell, but you all talk out of turn. So tell me why it's just about the mask. Okay. Okay, great. Then talk about other things. Let's do 5% about mask and 95% about education and programs and policies. That's all I'm asking. Wait, all right, wait, see? But this is it. In 9 years, in 9 years of coming to a Board of Ed meeting, I've never seen somebody who doesn't know.
Ms. Michael?
Ms.
Ms. Michael?
It's my turn. It's my turn. See, you guys are unorderly. It's
You
my
can,
turn.
excuse
I
me,
let you speak.
excuse me.
Ms. Michael.
If you want to make comments to the board, this
Okay,
is the time for that. If you want to chat among other people, you have every right to do that, but not during this part.
I get it. Thank you,
I'm
Chris.
sorry, thank you.
But I would just like to come as a parent with my time out of here to work with my fellow parents. I want to work with you, but I just want to get somewhere. I want to talk about my child's education that happens in 2 weeks. I want to talk about the mask, but then I want to talk about programs. I want to see where we're going as a district. I don't want to talk about politics, Rich. I want to talk about education for at least, give me 10 minutes about education. Is that too much to ask?
Anyone else? Okay, we are going to close this portion of the meeting. We're closing hearing of the residents. All right, you know what? Come on up.
I just had a quick question about the social and emotional.
If you can just identify yourself, please, sir.
Yes, I'm Anthony Millay.
Okay.
And I have just a quick question about the social and emotional learning for grades 6 through 8. Is there any way that we could possibly see what the curriculum is for that? It's a pretty broad statement, and I just want to make sure that it's something that we believe in, and I would really like to just see what's on that curriculum. Is there a way that we could get that? Or is there a way that someone could tell us what will be on that?
For social emotional
Social and
learning?
emotional learning itself is a very broad topic. So
Yeah,
we do everything from, we have the Champions Days in when students learn about, they come in and talk about service to others and so forth. That falls under social emotional. We have therapy programs within the schools that works in that. So I'm not sure, like when you're talking about the social and emotional learning piece, or you're talking about history, you're talking about...
Well, I'm just interested in seeing what that curriculum is. There is
Okay.
a lot of talk out there, about what's being taught in schools,
Mhm.
and because that's so broad, I
Right.
would actually like to just see what that curriculum would be, if that's a possibility.
Your name is Anthony Millay?
Yes,
Can you spell Millay for me?
M-A-L-E-T,
M-A-L-E-T.
yes.
Okay. Within the next few days, I'll get your email through real time, and I'll send you any resources that we have, and if there's other questions you have to follow it up, you can just reach back to me and follow it up.
All right, thank
And
you.
it might be better, even if you want to have a phone call, because maybe you have specific questions that you'd rather just ask that way.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Okay. Are you coming up to speak? I wasn't sure.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Mann. I'm not going to really say much. The mask mandate is what it is. But a lot of the parents that are here today are the loudest parents in the room. And unfortunately, the other parents, the 60% of the parents in the school district that agree with masks and just want our kids to be safe and appreciate the Board of Ed and all you're doing. You guys are stuck between a rock and a hard place. This isn't your fault. So I just wanted to thank you guys and voice my support. I hope we all have a good school year. I hope we all make it. And that's it. I just didn't want their voices to be the loudest voices in the room because it's not really right.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the hearing of the residents, and let's move on to old business. Does anybody have anything that they need to discuss from old business? Okay, how about new business? Ms. Ellis?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I did send out an email to those on the strategic planning. As we know, next year, 2022, our first five-year strategic plan is up. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we begin the process, because as we know, it's a lengthy process. And I believe the process we used last time was a good process. We had someone from the outside come in and help facilitate it. We used large and small public community meetings where we received, the input from the community on how we should proceed. I think it was a very collaborative process. I think going through that process again is a great way to do it. It takes somebody from the outside who really kind of facilitates it. It takes out any certain bias. They do all the calculations. They, help lead everything. And I think it would be a way we can go. There's a couple options of who we go with. And I kind of would open up to discussion. We can reach out to the various groups that we've used before. We can check new groups. We could get some proposals in, and then the board can review to figure out the best way to move forward. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there for discussion. We certainly could talk about it tonight, and then if the board feels, we can also discuss it more when we meet for our goals, if that makes sense, opposed to creating another meeting. So I just wanted to bring that out to kind of start the discussion on how we can move forward with that process.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, yes, I have something to say. Great energy tonight. Let's keep this energy up in November, because you do have the power to change it, hopefully. We'll see what happens with that. And if anyone wants a copy of the Fauci letter, you could email me and I'll send you a copy of that. And I hope to see you the next meeting. And of course, hopefully we could talk about more things one day and not just focus on kids not being able to breathe oxygen. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam President, real quick, I just want to sincerely thank all the parents here who are here this evening. Obviously, it's very contentious. People have their opinion. But the goal of this Board of Education is to ensure that our children are well educated. That is the ultimate goal. And obviously, there's disagreement there between masks and mask mandates and not wearing masks. But the fact is that the 9 of us up on this Board of Education do the children's work by ensuring that our educational enrichment is proper and the best possible. And we're going to continue doing that, regardless that we may argue, we may disagree on things, but our ultimate goal and the reason why we are here is for the children and to ensure that they have the proper education. And thank God that we have great educators within this district that work with us to make sure that we deliver it. So let's not forget that. That's the most important, critical aspect of our job as Board of Ed members, is to ensure the quality of the education. And we're going to continue fighting for that. With that said, I'm hoping to see everyone next week, and let's see where we go with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Mr. Carroll, I would just like Dr. Hoker to just give the board an update on what's going on tomorrow. Some good stuff going on.
Okay.
Thank you. So we get to end on a high note. So tomorrow is our Summer Institute, where we welcome our non-tenure teachers back. We have over 130 staff members that will be present tomorrow for the Summer Institute, and we have 3 days of professional development for our brand new teachers. We have more than 55 brand new teachers. We have 35 second-year teachers and 15 to 20 third-year teachers that will be joining us. And in addition to that, we have some of our veteran staff who are attending the event so that they can serve as role models to our new teachers. So exciting days ahead. The following week, we do have our administrators retreat. We'll bring everyone back together again as we prepare for the opening, and then 2 days of in-service for all of our staff. So looking forward to seeing everyone back.
Excellent. And, okay, we have an executive session?
You do.
Mr. Parton?
We need a motion for executive session to discuss some personnel items, property issue, and some attorney-client privilege information.
Dunn will second.
Okay. On Mr. Mara?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are going into an executive session at 9:10.
Okay, and we will adjourn the meeting